Yeah, so the thumbnail picture is from a previous Halloween and a different Joker. Whatever, sue me. As you'll find out in this video, it's not always about you folks. A horrible dumpster fire. The sequel no one wanted. An absolute mess. Terrible, terrible, terrible. A 50% or below rating on Rotten Tomatoes, Metacritic, and Letterboxd. Booed by every YouTube movie reviewer, ranging from those with millions to those with dozens of views. Joker 2, Folie Deux, isn't exactly getting the praise it deserves. So let me be one of the only, perhaps the only, to say, let me tell you what they've all missed about this movie and why it's actually low-key brilliant. This video will contain spoilers and will assume you have seen the first Joker movie, just a FYI. Joker 2019 was undoubtedly one of the greatest movies ever to hit theaters. It brought acclaim, positive reviews, and Oscar wins for its darker, though realistic tones of Gotham and Arthur Fleck, portrayed by the great Joaquin Phoenix. First off, y'all make a decision. Papa's recording. Okay. So right off the bat, this sequel never had a chance. With an original movie like Todd Phillips' Joker, the thought of a sequel, even to me at first, I was like, unnecessary. So let us be cognizant of that. I think if it had been its own thing, people would have liked it way more. A lot of the debate when the first Joker movie ended centered around if Phoenix's character, Fleck, was actually the Joker or not. After all, the movie was an origin story, not necessarily the origin story. Arthur Fleck was a lonely, mentally troubled man who wanted nothing more than to be loved and accepted by his mother, by whom he was led to believe was his father that abandoned him, Thomas Wayne, by his quite literally imaginary girlfriend down the hall. He didn't really care about being a comic or a comedian. He only pursued those things because of some fantasy that was embedded in him by his abusive mother. Now, when he starts developing into a version of the Joker, it's out of sheer self-defense. Those thugs on the subway might have killed him when he chases a third guy down and, shoots him to death. That was, of course, too far, but he still probably could have gotten off with like manslaughter or a lesser degree due to a crime of passion or something like that. Nevertheless, Arthur Fleck only starts to embrace that guy, Joker, because people around him, people in this desperate world and version of Gotham, are looking for someone to represent the masses as the wealth gap and equality gap in this realm are starting to widen to such a degree. Sound familiar? See any parallels so far? So he starts to play a part, and he plays the part throughout this sequel as well, because that's what everybody loves about him. It's really the only thing. It's the only reason Gaga's character even gives him the time of day. It's the only reason anyone knows him. It's the reason he has fanboys. It's the reason he has fanboys, girls, and theys come to his trial every day in support of him. This alleged murderer of several people, including some that they don't even know yet. Arthur plays the part because it's what the people want, but it's not really what Arthur wants. So his lawyer warns him that Harley is lying to him, using him, and only likes him for his Joker persona. She doesn't actually like Arthur himself. The same thing happens with his guards at the prison. Sometimes they joke around with him. Even the head guard tries to mostly be a friendly kind of overseer. I equate it to him trying to be like a nice slave master, because when Arthur steps out of line, the guards absolutely put him back in his so-called place. We see this as a defining moment when Arthur calls the guards out on TV, because that's what the people, the mob, want from him. They want him to call out the inequality and injustice of the system. When Arthur goes back to prison, the guards take him to a secluded part of the prison, beat him, and possibly even, trigger warning, sexually abuse him. It's not explicitly said, but it's definitely hinted at, which is so weird to me. I don't know, that thing that rhymes with tape is such an absolute power trip of a thing, because I didn't see anything in the guards themselves that would actually signify them being attracted to Arthur. It's definitely more a sick and twisted power move. Either way, he's definitely beat to a pulp by the guards. When Arthur is returned to his cell, we can see how defeated he is. We can see the sadness in his eyes, the disillusionment. He's Joker on the outside. Inside, he's just Arthur Fleck that can be beaten to a pulp at a whim. And then he hears a cellmate who starts to worry about Arthur and steps out of line in the name of Arthur. The guards are still amped and upset. Arthur basically hears the guards kill this kid. that's defending Arthur. So these things are happening, and we see Arthur kind of second guessing everything. It's compounded by the fact that Harley might be lying to him or just using him or just liking him for Joker. And he can kind of see the manipulation that she is demonstrating. And then even before the abuse part, when he's brought back to the cell, we can see this in the testimony by his previous friend, Gary Puddles, from the first one. To me, this was the most heartbreaking part of the movie. His testimony was so sad. The guy was broken. He tells Arthur how he's afraid all the time. And at first, Arthur's like, I don't understand, Gary. I let you live. I told you you were the only one that was ever nice to me. And Gary actually basically says the same thing back, while also letting Arthur know the sheer powerlessness he felt during that moment of Joker killing the other clown guy, the other friend, only amped up his already kind of self-loathing he's had through his entire life because he's a little person. And the people in the courtroom that were like laughing when he walked in, fuck y'all, man. That's fucked up. Mean. Bullies. Like I said in the last video, bullies, just play it safe. Don't be mean, else you're gonna get killed by an insane clown that's just running around. Insane clown that's running around. Cat's just running all around too. My two cats just running around. But you can definitely tell in the movie that that testimony by Gary gets to Arthur. Arthur's even like, stop, I said no more questions, because Gary kind of just keeps going. So I think all of those things, the abuse by the guards killing the other friend, Gary's testimony, the fact that Harley Quinn is lying to him, kind of makes Arthur finally realize these people don't love him. They don't care about him. These people just need a symbol, a figure, someone to help them gain equality and justice, someone to be their voice, someone to fix their problems, someone to voice their anger. And unfortunately, that man ain't gonna be around for another 15 years or so. As you probably remember in part 1, when Arthur met him, he was like 10 or 12. So Arthur now sees through this veil. He finally understands, and he realizes it's too much for him. He doesn't want it. All he really wants, all he's ever wanted, was love, understanding, and peace. So he abdicates. He gives up the moniker of Joker. In fact, he himself in the movie says, there is no Joker. It's just me. And I think the saddest part, because realize he is guilty, right? But we can still feel for the guy. We can still empathize with him. But the saddest part to me, he tells the jury a final joke. Knock, knock. Who's there? Arthur Fleck. Arthur Fleck who? And that's it. That's the point. Arthur Fleck, this guy, he is no one. He has no one. He is loneliness incarnate. Harley's the first one to get up and walk out when he says all this, and then she's followed by droves of so-called supporters. Later, when the jury is reading the guilty verdict and we think everything is about to settle, a bomb goes off and Arthur escapes due to some random fan blowing up the courthouse. In that moment, he's whisked away by some so-called superfans, so he escapes their car and finds Harley on the famous staircase from the first movie. He tries to appeal to Harley one last time. He says he's still him, Arthur. He's always been him. And this is the only time in the movie that Harley calls Arthur by his true name and not as Joker. And she basically says, all we had was the fantasy and you gave up. And then she wishes him adieu. Arthur is recaptured and sent back to jail indefinitely. For some time later, we don't really know how long, he gets a visitor. We don't know who it is. It might be Harley, it might be his former lawyer, who knows. But then he's followed by another inmate that we have seen throughout the entire film. And we could tell that he's been an avid admirer of Joker. And he basically asked Arthur if he could tell him a joke. For the first time in the movie, at least in my humble opinion, Arthur truly looks like a man who has found some kind of peace. He'll probably be or was sentenced to death, but he's gonna live out the remainder of life on his terms. He's gonna do him. Unfortunately, that life is cut way short when the joke takes a dark turn and the fellow inmate stabs him repeatedly in the stomach with a shank after calling Arthur a disappointment.
Check it out, let's go. I'm the baddest dude alive!
Then we get undoubtedly what people out there hate the most about this film, which I in turn have found brilliant. The inmate that stabbed him is starting to blur into the background, but we can still see his shape as Arthur is falling to the ground, bleeding to death. And we can see the inmate slice his own mouth open, Heath Ledger style, laughing maniacally all the while. And the movie's over. Everyone, all these reviewers and critics and general audience members, in my mind, are missing the entire point of this flick. Because we all wanted Arthur to really be Joker. We all wanted him to give it to the man, so to speak. We're all Harley Quinns and his mob in the movie, cheering him on and hoping he succeeds. Because we sympathize, we empathize with him, because he is not the hero of the story. He's a fallen tragic figure, just another victim and problem with this system within Gotham. He's not the hero we need. He's not the hero we deserve, but he's the only one we've anointed because, again, Batman is 15 years or so away and we ain't got no one else. We, the audience, in a meta kind of way, are overlooking the fact that we too are just using Todd Phillips, the director, and Joaquin Phoenix, the actor, and their world of Gotham and their character, Arthur Fleck, as our pseudo-saviors to make us feel good. I don't know if y'all realize or not, but the last decade or so in our reality has been kind of f***ed up. So we too are like finding outlets and ways to vent through these characters, through these movies. Problem is, it's not supposed to be through the Joker. So we as an audience were shocked and a little dismayed with the ending, right? Because Arthur completely disavows the mantle, the torch that we gave him, that the mob within the movie gave to him. We don't care about Todd Phillips and his vision unless we like it. We don't care about Gaga and Phoenix or their performance unless their characters do what we want them to do. Then they get the Oscars, then they get the acclaim. I highly doubt that even though he did just as good, Joaquin is probably not going to get another Oscar for this performance. The inmate that stabs Arthur, we hate. Because we did not want some rando at the end of the film of this two-part epic to turn out to be the real Joker. And sorry, but he is the real Joker, that rando inmate. And that's the point, because y'all, the real Joker is supposed to be hated. The real Joker is a selfish, maniacal, socio-psychopathic menace unmatched in all of the DC universe. We cannot sympathize with him. We cannot empathize with him, for he is chaos. And that's why this ending is so brilliant. It shows just how much we don't care about Arthur, and how we also just wanted a tool to use as a venting method. And we don't want to herald this new Joker. We can see that he's actually a madman. We don't want that representing us, because Arthur may have been broken, but he was still human. The guy at the end, he's something else. He's a monster. He's the Joker. The genius of this movie, in my humble opinion, is one, showing us that the selfishness of the mob and the selfishness of us as audience members are one and the same. And two, how truly mad the Joker is and is supposed to be. Also, if you remember in part one, again, when Arthur met Bruce Wayne, he was like 10 or 12. So what, we thought the Batman was gonna grow up and fight some geriatric Joker? I mean, that just didn't make sense. But what's more, it shows how those even convicted or accused of several murders can be used by the masses how they see fit. Yet, it also shows how one in such a place can still find redemption, which I personally think Arthur does. While he's dying, bleeding out on the ground, we see Arthur die with a smile. I swear, as it zooms in on his face, he's smiling. This tragic life is finally over. So I think when we look at the movie through that lens, we can appreciate it more. 5 or 10 years from now, people are gonna think it was a masterpiece. They're gonna think it was a great way to end. And they'll realize that Arthur could never become the Joker, not the true Joker, but he might have inspired him. He might have been that transitional piece that made the real Joker be like, that's it. That's the gimmick. That's who I am inside. And I'm gonna take it up several notches, which the real Joker actually does. Those are my opinions and my 2 cents about the movie. That's how I viewed it at the end. No, I don't think it was as good as the first, but if you follow my channel, I hardly ever think sequels are as good as the first. Is it slow in some parts? 100%. The courtroom drama aspect of it all, there's no real apex. The best part of the trial scene, in my view, was when Gary gives his testimony, and really only because it was so heartfelt and heartbreaking. Also, I want to address at the end here, the reviewers and people all upset and bashing the musical elements of the movie. One, most of y'all stated in your own reviews that you're just not a fan of musicals. So already the movie's playing from behind in your view, in your eyes. That's fine. Musicals aren't for everyone. That just shows how they already made up their mind they're not going to like it in the first place. Two, some are even saying that the musical elements take away and have no bearing on the movie, to which I reply, are you fucking kidding me? They absolutely do. They give you a glimpse into Arthur's head, Arthur's fantasy, which is what this whole movie is about. It shows you how he's viewing the world in that moment. This is evident in the part where he's questioning Harley's loyalty, and then she shoots him in the fantasy, and he's like, why did you do that? I disagree, and I thought the musical elements were beautifully shot, and though they were basically doing covers, a jukebox type of musical, I thought they were fun and brought a little more pizzazz to the movie overall. But I actually enjoy musicals, so take that with a grain of salt. Overall, I personally think that people are just more prone to hate on and be negative towards a project because it creates more clicks, views, conversation, and debate, and that's just what humans are fueled by, right? Fear, friction, we love to hate. And if everyone were like, oh yeah, we like everything, there wouldn't be movie review channels because we'd all be like, yeah, watch it, everything's great, woo! So I get that, but I don't know, I just don't want my channel to become negative in that sense. Like maybe I am one of those people that can see the silver lining in a lot of movies or projects. But don't get me wrong, if I think a movie sucks, I'll tell you a movie sucks. Afraid sucked. But I think that in this environment, more than not, people just like to be haters, you know? Joker 2 is not perfect, but I think it's being hated on a level that is just like, it absolutely does not deserve. And that's because people are selfish. We just are. Unfortunately, as in life, sometimes movies just don't turn out the way you want them to turn out in the end. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're bad, as in life, just means there were different plans afoot. So after that insane, in-depth analysis of Joker 2, Folie à Deux, what's the real value of the flick? The real value of Joker 2, Folie à Deux is it's worth a watch. Maybe wait for it to come out on streaming. I don't think you have to see it in theaters, but the musical sequences do look outstanding on the big screen. So if you actually do like musicals, I think it's worth seeing on the big screen. There is no Scaredy Cal Scale for this one because nothing was scary, unless I'm judging other people's comments, ratings, and reviews, which I'd give those a 4.5 out of 5 of scariness, because Jesus Christ, people, maybe just tone it down a little bit, eh? Anyways, thank you all for stopping by. This has been The Real Value. I appreciate you all. See me next time, because I can't see you. Peace. Joker impression. I want to play a Joker one day. Peace.